Ladies and gentlemen of the crypto space, we're live on a Thursday, December 30th, 11:06 a.m. We're doing an emergency meeting. I'm off tomorrow, New Year's Eve, and we're going to wrap up the year as strong. We're going to wrap up the year as strong as possible, and we're going to solidify and really concentrate the core narrative so we can have a decent, rational game plan heading into 2022. And a lot of the streams of late have been really focusing on where things are evolving into, not where we came from, but where we're heading. You want to position yourself ahead of the curve. You want to position yourself not the way we used to historically, but really where things are moving into and how protocols are interacting with one another. It's no longer a one off. Like back in 2017, it was an ICO and it was all about that narrative only. What were they doing? How they were going to do it? What they were going to build? And did they actually execute and fulfill what they were going to build? And most of them did not. And that's exactly why those particular assets did what they did. And basically, the vast majority of the market just collapsed. But that is so not the story of what's going on. I mean, we started in 2020, and now we're in 2021, and we're heading into 2022, and it's just not anything comparable to what occurred historically. That does not mean we're going to have just straight up. We had obviously very bearish moments at times, and we will continue to have extremely volatile bearish moments at times, especially if technicals fail. You could really get a sense of market actors pushing the market down because of fear. Fear does what it does, no matter how awesome the narratives are for a market. But the point is, there's either a premium or a discount. You don't buy when there's a premium necessarily, you wait for discounts, and that's Warren Buffett's methodology. But now you need to know where to allocate capital to when discounts emerge, and you want to allocate it to the strongest of narratives, and that's the core portfolio. That's how you structure it. You have a core, and then you have your speculative bets. Those are your 1% plays that turn into 10%. And one of the perfect examples of a 1% play that turned into close to 10% thus far was Frax for myself. I took a 1% position. It's at 8.38%. And that's refreshing. It is now number three spot on the portfolio. And it has done what I hoped it would do. I position sized accordingly, rationally. The spec play, there was very little attention on Frax. There was a lot of hesitation because of what they were doing with USDC. It was predominantly backed by USDC. But, I saw the connection with what they were doing with that backing and deploying it to Yearn and generating revenue. And I saw how much control they were taking over Convex. And now they're just dominating Convex, dominating control over the current monetary policy. And it creates extremely deep liquidity for them and what they're doing with FPI. This is all heading in the right direction, and it's manifesting in recent price action. So it's all connected. That's the stablecoin narrative that we've talked about. You got Frax, you've got MIM, you've got UST, and those are the centralized stablecoins. I recently postulated a USDC, USDT narrative that could play out at the federal government level, considering their desire to back off of quantitative easing. They could pass the buck on to the centralized stablecoins to consume treasuries. And that'd be a fascinating outcome if that plays out. It's a narrative, it's a hypothesis. And if that hypothesis is confirmed, that'd be downright fascinating. It's all about optics with the government. And they need the QE because they need to stabilize their holy grail of risk-free assets, but they can't do it anymore themselves because of inflation. They're getting hammered across the board politically. Their optics are getting hurt, but now they can pass the buck on the stablecoin issuers. What a fascinating sequence of events that may play out. I look forward to seeing what happens in that regard. But the stablecoin narrative is all connected, Frax Mim UST, and that's obviously connected to Abracadabra and Popsicle as a liquidity provisioner. And now that Daniel and team basically control the directionality of Sushi with regard to the development and the roadmap, so on and so forth. Sushi has the capacity to tie everything together that Daniel and team have created. He said it best, Wonderland as a VC, just throwing around huge weight and huge capital. MIM being basically the primitive for sushi, facilitate cross chain liquidity. That's crazy. That's crazy. And then Popsicle automatically being a liquidity provisioner, moving around capital, extracting as much transaction fee revenue as possible for participants, and also facilitating optimal liquidity for people that are acting in the markets and trading opportunistically. And just what he's talked about with regard to the potential of sushi, he wants an order book DEX, and obviously the AMM component, the historic AMM component, has its place. But just all of these puzzle pieces seem so well fit together that is just an extraordinary narrative going into 2022. Bear in mind, the narrative is it's not a speculative narrative. That's the directionality of it. It's speculative how much progress is made over a period of time. That vote with Sushi get his approved proposal getting approved is just extraordinary to really confirm the directionality of the narrative. It's going to play out. How fast it plays out is the speculative part. But as it plays out, these puzzle pieces is just such a meaningful uh, rational thing to construct the core of a portfolio. It's possibly the strongest narrative in the crypto space. And you guys know that I speak and think in terms of narratives. The stable. This is probably the evolution of the stablecoin narrative, in many regards. How I've been thinking of it. Just big. It's big because stablecoins just tie into legacy financials, and then you're able to link legacy financials vis-a-vis the concept of QE at the Fed to centralized stablecoin issuers. So it could become just further intertwined with how legacy financials operates. And if that happens, that just solidifies the narrative for the general public, media outlets, and traditional finance market actors are like, oh, so stablecoin issuers are backed by treasuries, and there comes the capital. And all of these puzzle pieces lead to capital inflow. As capital moves from underperforming to outperforming, the crypto space will continue to outperform as it's been doing forever. I mean, the tech play is obviously playing out in legacy finance, as Kathy Wood talks about. Whether it gets hammered in the short term or not, we're talking about a 5-10 year time horizon, 2030. Tech is going to outperform, and crypto will outperform. And we see where things are heading with the long time horizon perspective. Just tantalizing, and it's as you could see, I'm at max processor capacity, trying to compress all these observations into as few sentences as possible. It's a vision of where things, let's say like a month ago, you kind of had this capacity to envision where things are heading. But what has happened in the last month, the sushi vote and the Frax just pushing ahead strong, and Convex ripping where it's ripped, and Curve. Look at the chart on Curve. Look at this chart. I mean, if this is the weekly. If you zoom out to the monthly, it's even more ridiculous. I mean, it's just up. You had your hyperinflationary decay, but look at this thing. It's basically a giant ascending triangle. I mean, just so much confirmation of narrative heading into 2022. And it's all focused really around the notion of stablecoins and the connection to traditional finance. Wow. Wow. So we were afraid last night. We had obviously some bearish candles close on the daily, and we could get hammered hard. And that has nothing to do with the narratives. Technicals are only a component of a narrative being invalidated or validated. It's only part of it. What you really need a serious event to occur for a narrative to be completely invalidated. Otherwise, it's going to play out. And that's the beauty of narratives, or really processing the narrative of particular assets and how they're interconnected with one another. Um, you see the progression of events, and as you get confirmation after confirmation after confirmation, you have more confidence and conviction, so you could have more concentration in your portfolio, focusing on the narrative. Extraordinary. Steven's in the house. Thank you. Good old Disney shirt. Crypto Tube. Hey Noah, hope you and the fam are keeping well. Appreciate your thoughts, clarity, and the madness as ever, my man. We try and do things different around these parts. I know it's towards the end of the year. 31 people in the stream, 8 likes. It's a little light today, but I hope we can help as many people as possible. Uh, Blessings to you, my man. I really appreciate it. VUM NGO. Got no idea what that means, but I like it. Are any legacy financial products included in your portfolio? I'm all in on DeFi, but studying history has me considering moving some equity into high dividend Dow 30 products. So I will elaborate. High dividend Dow 30 products have zero interest to me. I have no interest in the tech play. I have no interest in Tesla. I have 2 Teslas, but that's besides the point. I have no interest in the stock, Microsoft, Apple. I could give a shit about those stocks. They do nothing. And that's not necessarily just because of my passion for productive assets and my Warren Buffett ideology where cash flow is everything. I have my equities. My equities are battery metals. Um, the directionality of the world really is electrification, and it's a very long-term play. So my target for my equity portfolio is 2030. It's barely 2022, so I got 9 years before that portfolio will really start to show if the narrative is validated or invalidated. It's more than likely validated considering what Tesla started and the amount of uh, battery mega factories that have been built. Follow Simon Moore. Simon Moores. What's his last name? You want Simon Moores? Yeah, this is everything. He's Benchmark Minerals. This big stuff. So it's very hard to get into. I got into battery metals back in 2016. I was early, and being early sometimes is indistinguishable from being wrong, but it turned out to be right. And some of the battery metal miners definitely hit it big this year. They're all consolidating, emerging. A bunch of them went bankrupt, but I had a very diversified portfolio that has done well in legacy financial terms. A bunch of 10 baggers, a couple of 10, 12, 12x on some of them. But that's just the start. They're all going to consolidate. They're all going to get consumed because the world needs more batteries. Therefore, you need lithium, graphite, nickel, um, and oh my God, and cobalt. And you need all those 4 materials, and they're in short supply considering where the world is heading. Bottom line. So they're not revenue producing at all. There's no cash flow at all associated with the assets. But it's a very long term play, and there's no reason that portfolio can't go 10 plus X. And that is quite reasonable. And I think that's a relatively prudent expectation, in my opinion. I think it could potentially go more. 10 to 100x is a nice range. And I consider that a success by 2030. Sir Joe's in the house, present and accounted for. Sir Joe. Brakeless Ride is in the house. A pleasure. Good morning, Noah. Excited to find out about what Frax's FPI is. So we have some insight, early insight and speculation. We'll only know really what it is when it's finally launched. We get our airdrop information, so on and so forth. So I'm excited as well. My position is relatively large. Um, it's not 1% of the portfolio anymore, but I didn't buy 8.78% of my portfolio. I bought it at 1% size, and it has grown into what it has become. So you don't take large positions, you let small positions grow into large positions, which means you need to identify narratives early and take those speculative bets at 0.5%, 1%, and if they play out, that's how you change a portfolio. 1% to 10% changes everything. But if you overposition in a speculative asset, it could be very destructive. So you have to be very careful. So you have to have strong conviction in a narrative, and you identify assets that are consistent with that narrative, but not necessarily on the radar or as popular as they may become. Frax at the time that I took that position was not very popular. In fact, Daniel with MIM opted for UST. over Frax, predominantly, I would say, because of USDC backing of Frax, and that's not where Sam with Frax Finance wants to head, and that gave me a bit of conviction to take that speculative play. And lo and behold, it turned into what it is, and it's gaining a lot of traction, and they basically have a commanding control of Convex, and that's downright fascinating. A new happy holidays. So I'm hearing you have confidence in Frog ecosystem. If you had 5K, would you buy time or CVX? I'd buy neither. 5K is a small speculative or relatively small position. I know that it could be a lot for many persons, especially around the world. But this is convex. With a small position like that, you need to wait for total capitulation. Um, and it'll come sooner than later. You got to watch Fed news and really follow macroeconomics. Follow like Stephen Van Meter and Jeff Schneider. Those boys will tell you they're the sportscaster when there's going to be an economic event, and the system is really going to have a dramatic contraction. I don't see that happening, and I much more subscribe to Luke Groman's ideology that we're past the point of no return. And I like Raoul Pal, who has a very long time horizon, and that really describes the directionality of the market is up over time. But Stephen and Jeff will highlight very strong deflationary impulses that can occur. So you really want to find a discount, Anu. You want to find the discount. Right now, the market's at a significant premium. Only a couple of months ago, CVX was $17 and less. I think I took my position at $11, and it was down at $3 for a while. There you go. Didn't really do much for quite a while. Ripped up to 13, went all the way down to 3. Look at this period of time. $3 to 44. That's a heck of a premium to be taking a position. So you could easily see a retrace from 44 down to 100 day SM, 100 day SMA, 100 SMA on the daily, 100 day SMA. 24 could see a big dip over 50%. And dare we get down to the 200 SMA, $14. So there's no reason you can't have a strong deflationary impulse. It could potentially be a massive, massive wick down. So it's kind of like something you need to watch in the technical data. Because when discounts emerge, the strongest of narratives are presenting a buying opportunity. And who's buying? Redacted, uh, uh, Lobis, and protocols that don't give a shit if there's a deflationary impulse. They have a narrative that they're executing on, so they're buying. There's plenty of people that are going to buy on any strong discount that becomes available on Convex. Sure, Tetra will be buying if there's any dips. We'll be adjusting the portfolio. So it's a tough choice, and I know your situation, but relative to the overall market, it's late. Um, and it's very hard to take a position now. This is not when you take a position. This is when, with a small position, this is when you really want to find a steep discount. What was a steep discount? March of 2020. If you go out to the weekly on Bitcoin, March of 2020 was a steep discount. This was a complete implosion down to like 3,000 and change dollars. So you want to wait for stuff like that. That there's no reason it won't occur. It's a matter of time. Um, but it's not right now. S&P 500 just ripped to a new all-time high today. This chart looks ridiculous. It's basically on the daily. It was a giant ascending triangle, or a relatively large ascending triangle, and it broke through that ceiling. When we get to a top, I don't know. Kathy Woods doesn't necessarily expect a top, and a lot of folks think it just goes multiples. It just goes multiples in 2022. And if the target for government policy is price controls, and the Fed says, "All right, we're going to pass QE over to stablecoin issuers," there's literally no top, and the real story changes for the macroeconomic environment. Crypto Droid ABBM, don't know what it is, but I hope it means something good. Malcolm, can you speak on Curf's potential to capture a percentage of global institutional forex market? Yeah, not anytime soon, but that's where Keeper KP3R comes in and Fix Forex, and that's the spec play there. So spec play. But if it can capture anything of the global forex market, that'd be extraordinary. But fixed forex that's their intention. And it's not Curve that would capture, or they'd be capturing it vis-a-vis fixed forex because Curve has the most efficient AMM software, provides the best trades for people. So that's where the trades go, and that's where the transaction fees come from that we capitalize on being a Curve and convex holder. Yeah, even at 0.1% of daily forex volume, it would be massive. It would change everything. And I've told you guys the Curve narrative. I expect Curve and CVX incentivize returns on CVX CRV positions to trend towards zero, and the vast majority of revenue coming from three Curve and transaction volume in the coming years. I think that'll take years. Dr. T's in the house. Hey, brother. I hope everything's well. It's a pleasure. Happy New Year. The last year has been very enlightening. Thank you for being a part of that. I appreciate you. I appreciate you. We've been through a lot together. It's been crazy, and I think we've done better than worse. We made good decisions. We've been rational. That's the most important thing. It's the most important thing. I wish you the best in the new year. Zach took profits on some CVX CRV and converted more into Atom with a good splash of extra Osmo on the side. Well, spec play. Cosmos is really the China narrative, in my opinion, and I think it's going to be big in China vis-a-vis IrisNet. IrisNet is baked into the BSN. That's got to be something. So that's speculative there. Let me see. I mean, Iris has done well. I mean, Cosmos has been basically trading horizontal. I mean, it's up big. I think I took my position at $3, give or take. But my IrisNet position, it's small, but that's the spec play. It's not zero, but it's growing vis-a-vis osmosis. Iris is just growing, and compounding. So that's very nice. Um, we'll see how that goes in the coming years. Do you think UST MIM can maintain the APY long term? No. Abracadabra fail? I don't know about fail, but APY long term? No. These APYs will not maintain. It doesn't work like that. These APYs will be diluted. Trending towards zero. So folks that say, "Oh, I'm not going to get involved because these APYs won't last," damn right they won't last. They're going to trend towards zero as capital flows in over time, because capital flows from underperforming shit to outperforming awesomeness. Isn't that the deal? Isn't that obvious? So these APYs, shit, yeah, they won't last. So that's why you want positions. But the problem is the market's at a premium, so it's not necessarily an opportunity or a good time, good opportunistic time to take positions. You wait for the deflationary impulse and you mop up as Warren Buffett does. So what's a good play if you got cash sitting on the sidelines? LP positions with stable coins. Grab 10, 15%. 10, 15%. I know that's not going to turn $5,000 into $1,000,000. Your shit got to not retire off of that. But that's the whole point of what DeFi wants to be. It's supposed to be unfucking you from the banking system. It's giving you zero on your money, which is negative interest considering CPI and inflation. At least you're getting 10, 15%, and you're unscrewing yourself from Chase and HSBC and bank deposits and all of them. Everyone overlooks, new capital allocators so overlook, the risk, relatively risk minimized play to the DeFi space, which is stablecoin LP positions, merely because all the horror 10, 15% isn't 10,000 or 90,000%, like Olympus and Wonderland. Red herrings. They're red herrings. The high APY is a red herring. Will, thoughts on Redacted, not familiar in the team behind it. It's Tetranode. Big, big, big DeFi whale. 9-figure whale. I have no interest in treasuries. I have no interest in owning Time or Redacted or Lobus or Olympus DAO, Ohm. I think they'll do well, maybe 100% year over year, but you'll see like 90,000% on Time or 6, 7, 8,000% on Ohm. You're not going to get that. Your position, it's not the way it works. It's a red herring. They're going to be diluted. The APYs are probably going to maintain your position size. Olympus DAO documentation talks about it very clearly. The price will trend towards zero, and because of the hyperinflationary returns, yeah, sure, your position will maintain value. So if you put in 10 grand and you have 1,000 assets, you might have 20,000 assets at the end of 2022, and your position will be worth 15, 20 grand. So the APY is a red herring. It's misleading, not intentionally. It just is what it is. You're going to get that kind of return, but the price of the asset's going to go down. It's hyperinflationary. Maybe you'll get 100% of the position over the course of a year. So I think there's a fair amount of opportunity cost associated with Olympus Dow time and all the others, redacted, Lobus. There's just opportunity cost. I don't think you're going to get a relatively large return on your money. Yeah, oh, the crypto space, 100% ROI on a yearly basis. That's a horrible return. But that's a fair amount of opportunity cost in the crypto space. You could do much better. I mean, how many think like Curve's just going to do 100% over the next 1 to 3 years? It's going to do multiples probably. At least that's the gut instinct we have. Adrian, good evening. Happy New Year. It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. Thanks for changing my mindset. Best thing to happen to me this year. That was the whole goal. I started the stream last year. Dr. T knows the deal. It's been a long ride. We've gone through an evolution of narratives, an evolution of how we attack these markets. We've changed our philosophy, changed our mindset. We've had different plays. We've been more successful than less, and that's the whole goal. As they do at the casino, 51% edge is all you need, and if you're able to have that edge via technicals or a very strong narrative, you outperform the markets and you do well over long time horizons. Short time horizons, your portfolio take fat dip. I think I took like a 15% dip in the entire portfolio last night, and that wasn't pretty. But over time, it trends in the right direction. I do like Algorand. I do like Elrond. I do like Harmony One, Rock Hard. I don't have interest in them at the moment with regard to taking a portfolio position. I feel there's opportunity cost. I think Elrond has probably the most passionate, and there's a lot of their offering, just very powerful. But look, Phantom and Avalanche have so much traction, and that's just the deal. You know, you can have the greatest software in the world, but if there's no traction, it doesn't do much. Well, I think they get the traction? Sure. Would I take a 1% position? I wish I did at the end of 2021. At the end of 2020, I wish I took an early 1% position in Elrun. Um, but I didn't, and that's okay. You can't own everything you want to own. And that's okay. And it's okay to know that something is awesome. And it's okay to not own it if it doesn't fit into your concentrated narrative. And really, we've talked about that concentrated narrative that I've selected. And I think it's rational. And I hope that helps. 55 people in the stream, 21 likes. Let's wrap up the new year with some good likes. I wish you all the best. Happy and healthy new year. Thank you all for joining me over the last 2 years. It's been a heck of a ride, and may things continue to do very well for us in 2022. You expect these streams to continue. We're not going anywhere. The best time of the day, December 30th at 11:34 a.m. Thank you all for joining. Tell everyone to subscribe. After party on Discord. I wish you all a good one. I'll see you after the new year. Peace.